Just got quiet in my house. Not been posting very much. I got a lot going on. A lot. But anyway, I'm playing a game on Sundays, and I noticed DM asked, "Were you guys planning to go?" Because we're adventuring in a mega dungeon or region, and it's ridiculously large. And I asked the same stuff of my players, and my players will tell me one thing, and then the day of the game, go a different direction. It's irritating. Here's why. You planned on doing something, and then you didn't follow through. That's one thing. Another thing is, I know it's supposed to be all sandboxy and stuff, but here's the thing. If you refresh your memory on a certain part of a very large dungeon, you are more prepared. If they're forcing you to go into unexplored areas intentionally, and I think some players think it keeps the DM off their feet, and that if there's any ambushes or traps that were just made especially for them this week, then they avoid them. And they are gaming the system. I play with a lot of people who like to game the system in their head. They make it more difficult for the dungeon master, thus cheapening their play. And I don't think they realize it. I have other people who are simply ADD. They say, I don't remember talking about that. You spent 3 days talking about it. And then today you're like, look, a shiny. Or look, that squirrel you described obviously meant something on the side of the road. We are going to waste the next 2 hours figuring out what's up with that squirrel. No, bro, I was just describing a squirrel. So, what do you think? Do you think some players do it intentionally to try to game the system? Or you think that they're literally just a bunch of damn murderous toddlers who can't focus on anything for more than 5 minutes at a time? I think modern players, modern people, ability to focus and think long term has been eroded intentionally by modernity. I think the very nature of how we consume information and media destroys one's ability to think beyond a certain time frame, which makes it easier to push fads and stuff in their face and keep them chasing the next greatest, newest thing of consumerism. It destroys any appreciation of history and erodes people's ability to understand geopolitics at all, let alone history. I've met people who can't anything beyond 5 years. Most millennials that I speak to, consumers, that anything beyond 5 years, they just can't conceptualize it. It's too abstract. Might as well be 1,000 years ago. But yeah, I think it cheapens the gaming experience when you're always jumping from one lily pad to the next, making it more difficult for the DM. I really do. That's why I give you the courtesy, hey, what are you guys planning on doing this week? If they're wanting to return to the level 1 of the Castle of Mad Archmage, well, then you spend 2 days rereading everything on the first 2 levels multiple times so that you know everything without, making a mistake. The larger the mega dungeon is, and if you're wanting to go raw and you're not doing it as much off the cuff, you are going to make mistakes. We're human. I couldn't recall or remember the tolls that the 2 factions were going to try to charge players, and I had to do it off the cuff, and I was not too far off of it. I just couldn't remember the exact number, and And it wasn't like it was in a description where it was like the dwarf's offer. It was under character description within a room description. And I should have highlighted it. And you know what? Sometimes I do. I usually highlight stuff like that. But I didn't. For some reason, I just... Oh, I remember. Couldn't find my highlighters. Because my granddaughters think they're just like coloring markers. I'm not supposed to touch anything on Popsy's desk. But yeah, here's what it is. So, throwing that out there. ADD toddlers or intentionally trying to game the system by keeping the DM off foot. Or they're just retarded, you know. They're just murder hobos. Oh no, we're going to do this. Okay. I know. I actually threw out some descriptions of what was going on because they just chose not to do an adventure. So the world progressed forward, and the number of creatures multiplied, and they raided a little small village, and they followed along a military train going to take care of it, which would have just been more background fluff on the Discord. But no, they had to interject themselves because they think all the treasure in the dungeon is going to be piled up in that one room. There's going to be no treasure. All the treasure ran away after the 5th round of combat. Sorry about your luck. You'll find some silver on the corpses that you guys split with 60 other dudes. Plus you're splitting XP with those 60 dudes too. I'm sorry. You were well aware of the math when you walked out there. Is what it is. You gained some popularity locally, which is priceless, to be honest. They're going to be very loved in one town, and they'll probably get back to normal to this one town, but most people who come to resettle it after it being raised won't know who the hell they are. Is what it is. Thought I'd throw it out there. Game well, game often, y'all. Later.